What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Promptus Podcast. I am Gabriel, and I'm here with my boys, Chad and Zach. And funny enough, this one is from Australia,
Woo!
and I am in well, it's from both America and Australia, but I am in Australia, and I am here in person with Zach right now, and Chad has to deal with the lag from the opposite
Bro,
side.
I'm in Florida right now. Look at this.
I was about to say, you're like really representing like
He's owning it, dude.
the whole thing.
In Florida as it is in heaven.
Where'd you get that shirt?
Someone sent it to me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was his
Influencer.
mom. It was his mom.
I had a fan send it to me. It was my grandma.
With that being said, our PO box is
Oh,
Wait, it's
Could
going to
you
be in the
imagine?
description of this podcast episode.
well, what PO box? Mine or yours, Chad?
Mine. You get enough packages. I've had to pick up your packages before.
Bro, I don't get packages. You're
Jess
picking
does.
up Jess's packages.
Yes. Dude, I don't know if I told you this, but whenever I picked up those packages for you for like, what was it, like 2 weeks or something like that? I expected
in LA.
maybe like 10 packages. Like, okay, an abnormal amount. There was like 40 and like 4 were for Gabe, but I put those 4 at the front of the whole guest room or whatever. I put them in the front so Gabe would feel loved and accepted.
Oh, dude. You're the real hero, Chad. Yo,
Oh my
hey, we should
gosh,
jump
dude.
into today's prompt. But before we do that, did you like that transition? Let's go. Before we jump into today's prompt, I just want to let everyone know that you can actually submit your own prompts over at promptuspodcast.com. We have like a cool little form there that took me so long to make. So please use it. And you can actually submit prompts. And that's how we've got prompts for this episode today. So
Isn't there
Oh.
audio prompts too?
you can
Yeah.
actually submit an audio prompt.
So you can like record yourself, do a little audio prompt, and now people know about it. So in future ones, if
Yep.
there's audio prompts that are sent in, sometimes we'll
I'm
use
just
those.
imagining
Heck yeah,
people
it
like
depends.
plugging themselves. I'm imagining people like, hey, so my prompt is, how do I like hustle in marketing? By the way, you can find me at.
It's just Chad. It's just Chad submitting prompts.
Hey, how do I get free
We
stuff from
play
people?
it.
By the way, find me at Chad Masters.
Also, my PO box is blah, blah.
That's so good. All right, boys. All right. So today's prompt is from Kathy in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Is that
We're saying names now, guys. by
Oh
the
yeah.
way.
By the way, we're calling you out.
Yeah. So
Let us know if you don't want us to call you out. But so far, no one's been.
yeah.
against that,
If we're
so
not gonna call, we won't call you out if when you submit a prompt you say,
don't call
"Can
me
this
out.
be anonymous, please?"
So yeah, Kathy from Massachusetts. Is that how you say Massachusetts? How do you say that?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Is that how you say it, Chad?
Massachusetts. I think it's
Yeah, there it
so.
is,
So I
baby.
don't even think people think of Massachusetts. They think of like Boston. Like, oh, me at a Boston lobster, pack the car by the harbor. Like it's very like intense accent.
Dude,
Why does that
was
sound Australian?
so perfect. That was the most accurate Boston accent I've ever heard.
Good stuff.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Almost
so
as good as my Australian accent.
no, your Australian accent's pretty good, bro.
Oh, thanks, dude. Jess still says it's not
It's not
good. She's
good.
like, you're getting better.
You're getting.
Wait, that was so good.
That's her way of like nicely just like putting me down.
Shout
Anyway, we really got to get.
We got to get
prompt.
into this prompt. All right, so today's prompt from Kathy is: what do you do when you lose sight of your purpose and joy, and you believe that's where God wants you to be?
That's the spicy
A
part.
spicy
at the
one
end.
to start. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Chad, have you got anything to kick us off? Sorry. bro.
Yeah. I think the first thing I'm going to say to you, Kathy, is that this is real. We all struggle with it. I think we all go through waves of loss of purpose because I think our purposes can change from time to time. I know that whenever I was, like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, my purpose, what I felt in my life was to be a professional athlete. And of course, now that's changed a bit. And so I know with
Every young
boy
who's,
from
plays
like,
sports.
yeah,
Grew
from
up
like a
in
football
America.
town.
I'm gonna be in the NFL.
Literally, that's all I wanted to be. And so I know that as purposes can like adapt and change and evolve, you can be in these random little hallways where you're wondering like, where do I go? Right? Like, I don't feel like I don't know which door to walk through. It's very confusing. It's very debilitating. It's very, it's just something it's not a fun place to be in. But I think what's important in what she asked what, Zach? Can you read like the first part of the question again?
Yeah, for sure. So it was, sorry, let me bring it back up again. What do you do when you lose sight of your purpose and joy?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's important first to separate joy from your purpose, because you have to understand that that with joy, that's like how you walk, where purpose is where you walk. Okay. And I think it's really important for people to not let them to be attached, because with purpose, that's like an end goal, like of what you want to do, but you can walk with purpose no matter what. In that hallway where you're wondering, where do I go? What do I do? What's my purpose? You can have joy. Because like what it says in James 1,
So
consider it all joy, my boy. He doesn't say that, I'm paraphrasing. But it says, so when you go through trials of many kinds, which by the way, you will go through trials, that's a thing. It's like, this is normal. Welcome to humanity. Consider it all joy, because now we have a chance to grow in perseverance. And as our faith grows and our endurance grows, we will learn how to not depend on the end result to feel joyful. So I just think that's something that I really want to kick off with you boys. How do you feel about that? Have you ever struggled with attaching your joy to your purpose?
I have, but that just what you were saying reminded me of something that you said, Zach. For so long, your purpose was so attached to your music and producing music and making music.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned, what if I don't make it in music? Like, will I be okay? Will, and your joy can't be contingent on that, like you're saying, Chad, which I thought was, I don't know. That's just what came to my head. I was like, oh my gosh, we kind of already talked about this in a different way.
Yeah.
From some of the stuff that you were saying. But, dude, Chad, what you were saying was so cool with them being separated. I love that so much, in having your purpose. It's kind of like, what is your life mission statement in a way? Like, what is your mission statement in life? And that is where your purpose is going, and how you're attacking that, through your faith or professional life and your personal life and all those things. But understanding with that faith vertical that through Christ and through Jesus, we should have joy, whether, we're crushing it at work or crushing it in our purpose or not.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for me, and to refer to the story you're talking about, like, music was such a centerpiece of my whole life, in a sense. And now that I look back on it, I like idolized music as everything. Like, if I don't make it in music, like you're saying, like, if I don't make it in music, then everything that I think I am, it just doesn't exist anymore. What's
like, your
goal?
life will be a waste.
Yeah, it's like, all the work or whatever it may be, right? And actually, I took some notes when we were thinking about this, because I didn't want to get lost in it, because it's such a simple thing for me that kind of got me through it, which was just to acknowledge my blessings.
Yeah.
Like, to acknowledge where I was at that time and go, without music, I still have a very blessed life. Because when I thought about it like that, I saw my life as a whole picture, So like, coming out of that season, I don't even mind what I do anymore. Like you said, Chad, separating that purpose to joy. It's like, I can be joyful even when I feel super purposeless.
Yeah.
I think that's like such a key part, I guess, of the journey for me now. And then also just talking about it with other people. Like, I think that's such a simple thing as well. But honestly, just telling people, I feel like my purpose is taking a hit today. Just to anyone, just like, hey, whether it be Chelsea's like, how you feeling today? I'm like, I just feel like I'm not sure what today looks like, and I don't know why I'm doing it. But that actually brings me joy, knowing that I have someone there to talk about it with. So it's really nice. They're so intertwined, but being able to separate them is definitely like step one.
Say the second part of the thing, because I thought that was interesting.
Totally.
The second part of the whole phrase, where it kind of...
So I'll read the prompt again and add that second bit so context is there. What do you do when you lose sight of your purpose and joy, and you believe that's where God wants you to be?
So I wish I had more context, because on this person's specific situation, because I don't want to like give a blanket statement answer that isn't right for her situation. But as a general rule of thumb, I really believe God doesn't care as much about specifically what you do, but that what you are doing, you do for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, fully.
It's like, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, it's not like a purpose prescription per se, where it's
this
like,
is the
this
career.
is the thing.
Yeah.
And because then at that point, it's like you were saying with the music thing, like, if you do this, like, are you doing it for God, or are you doing it like just to succeed in that one thing? And if you don't succeed in that one thing, your life was for naught. You know what I mean?
Fully.
So I think really having that perspective and understanding like God isn't going to be upset if you change career paths because you're just like super unhappy and you're just not enjoying your work.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
you want to enjoy your work.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my
I mean, I've
that's
always
my
had
thought on that initial.
I've always said something very similar, which is that God cares more about what's going on inside of you versus what's going on outside of you. And so there are people that
Nice.
are doing insanely godly work in an ungodly way because they're idolizing it. And so God doesn't need more missionaries. He needs more people worshiping him. Right. And
Mhm.
it's just like there's a big difference there where I think if we're living life with like, okay, I'll just say this. Life is not about our own personal joy. It's not about personal fulfillment inside of our purpose. That's not what life is about, but that's what society wants us to feel it's about. And then you fall into the rat race, which is that if I do this thing, it's an equation. If I do this thing, I will then feel this way. And if I don't do this thing, I will miss out. I will have FOMO. I'm gone. Like I've missed it. And that's what society really is like kind of projecting this, like specifically on Western culture. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at whatever we're doing. What am I doing this for? Is exactly what you're saying. Am I doing this to worship God, or am I doing this because I feel not okay and I'm trying to feel okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and are you allowing culture and society and, whatever it is, the American dream, something that's not biblical, it's just part of society and culture, to influence the way you view your faith and your God and your purpose in life? You know what I mean? Because if that's your influence, you may be suffering from a comparison issue.
Yeah.
Rather than God-given joy and purpose issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, too. Well, that's what I've got written down here. Like when I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, those big things are really good, like buying a new car, getting a new house, like I'm buying a dog or something. But even to refer back to what I was talking about before, it was when I like searched the smaller things in my life and was like, oh, that actually brings me a lot of joy. And those are God-given things, like basic things like being able to look after myself and eat well, or like even just drinking water. I'm like, yo, I get to drink 3 liters of water today. Let's go. Like that's actually a blessing. And it's the way that I do those things. And I acknowledge that, hey, God's given this to me. I feel like that's more important than like, yo, am I flipping crushing, $1 million this year or something crazy? It's like, yeah, that's cool. But I just don't think that's ever going to fulfill, on the same level of just, kind of enjoying what God has provided in this life, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, especially like the car example, Zach, about like, if I buy the car, if I get married or whatever, I think people naturally have equations like what I talked about earlier, like A plus B equals C. And for the most part, that works. Like, for example, if you hurt your leg, you go to a physical therapist. If you're struggling with like school or like homework or whatever, you get tutoring. If your car breaks down, you go to a mechanic. There's like, there's an A, then there's a B, and you get the end result. But when it comes to something as deep as joy and as something as specific or as unspecific as purpose, we have to be really careful because we need a different equation. And we tend to take the same equation that we apply to I'm hungry, therefore I'm going to eat, and therefore I'm going to feel good, right? But the thing is we have so many cravings. Sometimes we have too many choices, and it causes us to not make a decision on what we want to eat. I mean, you boys, have you ever asked your wife what they want to eat? How's that go?
What do you want?
What do you want? Like, how does that go? And it's like there's so many choices, it can become debilitating. And so I think it's important for us to not use the same equation that we use for physical, tangible things in life for deep spiritual, emotional, mental things that are much deeper than that. And so we have to apply a different equation. And I do want to move this into more of a practical approach for like, okay, I feel
practical, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm losing my purpose. I feel like I don't have my joy. I feel like I need to take steps in order to work on this. So like, do you guys have any practical steps of things that you've worked on whenever you felt this way?
Yeah, honestly, in a weird way. I mean, it's something that I feel like I've been developing after going through depression, losing purpose in my work and everything, and kind of regaining that and trying to have it be sustainable.
Yeah.
This is like a strictly like personal thing, but having a set routine in place day to day
It's good.
and knowing that like, okay, in the morning, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to put on a sweater that I like, I'm going to make my coffee, and I'm going to sit down on the couch and I'm going to read and pray, talk with God, read a book that I like. Then I'm going to get out of my comfy stuff, put on some gym clothes. Zach and I have been crushing a 45-day workout
Let's
plan,
go.
just at home, no equipment,
Yep.
videos. It's been great. I do that. I go on the little shared note that we have. I check that I've done it. I can see that Zach's done it. We have accountability there. And then just kind of really setting up, and it's like basically the same thing every day. And it's things that I want to do that I know will bring me joy.
Yeah.
And most of the things are not work related really, but then it makes getting into work like really.
It's like the barrier. You kind of breaks the barrier, the entry barrier down.
Yeah,
You
it
feel
makes
like you can just
getting into work a joy. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
and
good.
now I get to work on something that, like hopefully I enjoy. And if I don't enjoy it, just trying to get the most joy out of that thing. Like, I don't like doing emails. Emails are so annoying for me, but like I got to do it. So I'm going to go through and know that, I got to cross that off my to-do list once I'm done with it. And that brings me joy, knowing that I've accomplished something, and just kind of having things be measurable throughout the day, knowing that you're going from, one thing to the next in like a rhythm and routine. Which sounds kind of weird saying that like that'll bring you joy, but for someone who is so attached to purpose and joy and it deals a lot with emotions, routine and a schedule really, really helps.
For sure.
If you're someone who struggles with that like me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my mum always used to say to me, like, I love that you're so creative, but you need structure. And I used to think that was so annoying because I'm like, I don't need structure. I'm going to be a flippin' entrepreneur, like whatever, which is like one of the most structured gigs ever. I don't know what I was thinking. But, like a very similar thing for me where it was only when I added structure and structure that I liked. I think sometimes structure can come with like this whole thing of, oh, it's bad structure. I have to do this or I have to do this. But it's something Chad taught me, and like I guess I went through with him was, like taking time for yourself in the morning. Super simple thing. But like you said, Gabe, that's enough for you to get into a great mindset for the day as a day.
Yeah.
And that's probably my thing that I've learned over the last kind of few months, especially about finding joy and purpose. And it is day to day. And
dude,
like, that's okay.
It's literally, you told me to read, or I'm listening to Essentialism on Audible.
Chad, have you heard Essentialism or read Essentialism?
I have the book and I know a lot about it because I'm not like a minimalist. I'm definitely more of an essentialist.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll love it, bro.
For sure. Dude. So, oh my gosh, what were you just saying about the routines? Yes. Okay. So I'm literally had just gotten through the part where it talks about sleep and rejuvenating yourself and things like that, and how you will get more done and be more productive in a less amount of time. It's basically talking about people who like sleep 4 or 5 hours a night and they're, they're cooked and are really not that productive, even though they're working longer hours.
Yep.
But that goes the same. Like, I feel rejuvenated after spending time with the Lord in the morning.
Yeah.
After exercising and working out. After, right now I can walk to a coffee shop with where we're at in Australia, and that's the jam. Walking to a coffee shop, getting an awesome,
I think you're going to say donut. I think you're just getting a heap of donuts.
A dope coffee. No, but like a flat white.
Totally.
Shout out to Australia.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And then like having breakfast with Jess and all these things that like rejuvenate me and bring me life. Then I know I'm going to flip and crush. Even if I'm, I'm not doing like a full 8-hour workday. If it's 5 or 6 hours, I'm noticing that I'm able to be more productive and more beneficial in my work. Like, I feel like I'm getting so much more done in life. As far as like output, like during the day, I'm like, did I even do that much? Sometimes.
Totally.
But
when you look back at
when
it,
I look back at
it,
it, I'm like,
up.
I just released a single and filmed a music video with you, edited that, just got a series done. Like, we're recording more podcasts, and I'm just like understanding. And this was a realization that I had when we were actually talking a few days ago, but understanding that the more time and structure I'm able to give myself outside of like just being in my work, it rejuvenates me and brings me joy to actually tackle work and takes, it's like a balance, right? Like a scale.
Yeah.
I've taken like if the scale was super heavy on work and purpose and work life, I've taken some of those blocks and put it on the other side and balanced it back out. You know what I mean? Like not all my weight and all my coins are in the bucket of work and purpose and what I'm working on, you know?
Totally. How about you, Chad, man? What are you doing practically?
I think something that I'm doing practically is I'm taking less pressure off of big things. It's kind of what you and Gabe are saying, where there's smaller things in my life that I can practice that will make a bigger change. It's kind of like, I think we all want this super deep, like huge answer that's just gonna revolutionize our thought process, and it's gonna be like, this is it, I found it, you know, I know it now, I feel better now. But in actuality, it's like, it's almost like it can start with like making your bed. You know, it can start with small actionable steps that help you walk in a direction you want to. It's almost like building habits, like what we talked about in that one podcast. There's a bunch of little things, and we have to be careful to not attach the big question that actually doesn't have to have a complicated answer. I think that's what's amazing to me, is that I think we're making it harder than it needs to be. You know what I mean? Because
well, I and to not to cut you off, but a simple, I guess, practical thing is like, what do you want? Ask yourself, like, what do you actually want on a practical level, and set that as a goal, and then just work backwards from the goal. Like, what do I want, and what practical steps need to take place to get to that goal? And if you're really not happy in your job, write down what the thing is that you want, or a different version of like what you think God may be calling you towards, or whatever it may be. Something else, like what is it that you actually want?
Yeah.
And then work backwards from there.
Yeah, fully.
You know, because if you're in the right, I went through that, you know, I was going through, you know, I went through my period of depression the first time, and that was so rough, lost purpose and everything. I just stopped everything, but then I just stopped working and allowed myself to breathe and have space. And in that, certain things came to me because I had that open time to breathe and to relax and to rest. And God was placing stuff on my heart. And that was me getting closer to God, and then God's desires for me were put on my heart. Yeah. And then from there, I was able to approach things.
It gives you a confidence,
right?
Yeah,
yeah. Approach things with more joy, you know? And I started a few new things, put some things that I wasn't supposed to be doing on, you know, just stop doing them. And I think that's where that really needs to come from, is, you know, because sometimes, even if it is a child, like you said, something that is seemingly beneficial to God through your work, but it may not actually be where God wants you to be, and it may be an idol and something that you are determined on like doing, but it's not actually where you're supposed to be.
You know, I was thinking about Chick-fil-A as you guys were just talking, and I find it.
I was same, honestly.
You're right. I just find it so interesting that they can be closed one day a week and be operating better than every other kind of fast food chain or franchise in the United States. I think they're number 2 in the United States now. And I saw an article from like Forbes that said why McDonald's should take a play out of Chick-fil-A's playbook and by closing once a day. I just think it's so counterintuitive. No restaurant ever would think, oh, in order to do better, I need to not be open, right? It's like, it's counterintuitive. And I think when it comes to things like when we lose our purpose and our joy, we typically want to take a square peg and try to force it into a round hole and say, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to force this thing to work. When in actuality, whenever you create space from that pressure of feeling lack of joy and lack of personal fulfillment, if you can take a step back from that, I really do think it gives you the space to process that. It's just like what you're saying, Gabe, where you're able to correctly process what you're feeling, think about what it is you want to do, work backwards from there, and create a plan to walk towards what you feel you're called to do. But you're able to do it in a healthy way where it wasn't out of urgency. Because I always say that you should never make a decision out of desperation, right? Where there's companies that have reached out to Tori and I, and they've offered say this like a brand partnership. And there's times where we could really use like extra money and we're tempted to say yes. But I always say to my wife, and these are just random numbers, everyone listening, okay? I'm saying if we had an extra $100,000 in the bank, would we accept this job right now? And the answer is always no. And so we don't take the job. We're not going to act out of desperation. But desperate times cause people to make decisions they typically otherwise wouldn't. And so when it comes to something as deep as purpose and as meaningful as joy, we have to take a step back and we have to breathe and not force something to happen. And I love what you're saying. Practically, you can just slow things down and process it in a super healthy way.
Yeah, giving yourself time to think. That's also mentioned in the Essentialism book. Yeah, I've been crushing it on the drives
so
over
Let's
here.
Let's go, dude. Let's go.
But yeah, it's giving yourself time to think. And in the book, he literally talks about scheduling that into your day.
Make it proactive, yeah.
Be proactive in your time to think, whether it's a few hours or whatever that, time allotment may be, and having no distractions in it. No internet connection, just for you to be able to think during that time and process things. Now is the only time where we're not bored in life. Now our society is the only time in society where you
Dude, I was literally just going to say that.
Yeah, where you don't have to be bored.
Yep.
You can be in an airport now, and if you're waiting for your flight, you're not bored because you can just pull out your phone and start scrolling or playing a game.
Being in the airport's actually better than being on the plane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Where 20, 30 years ago, it's being on the plane was the highlight because you're on your way to the journey.
Yeah.
Well, or you're on the journey, but the airport was just in between. And now it's oh no, I want to go to the airport because I can scroll on my phone. And that's what I just want to add that to what you're saying is a big thing for me was just cutting everything, no Instagram, turning notifications off because, I didn't feel like I had enough time because I was I need to make money or I need to pay rent or whatever it is to stop completely. So I thought, okay, well, with the time that I do have, I'm not going to watch that random Netflix show. I'm actually going to sit down and write out what makes me happy. Or I'm going to kind of substitute time that I would have spent being oh, it's me time, but actually it was distraction time. And I think that's a big thing is the difference between those two things, because otherwise you end up never being proactive about it.
Yeah. And I think it was really important that you mentioned random Netflix show because we all crushed Drive to Survive on Netflix. And now we're all obsessed with Formula One.
Yeah.
I
don't have time to be, bro, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I'm very proud of
If anyone
Max
else is out there
Verstappen.
is a Formula One fan.
Dude,
What?
so
What'd you say?
I'm not even kidding you guys. I haven't told you this yet, but Tor and I have a Discord server for our Patreon people or whatever, Patreon
So
peeps.
sick.
And dude, we have a Formula One chat now in our Discord.
No.
Yes.
Dude, I was literally
Flipping add me, bro.
today, I was going to go on Instagram, and I'll probably do it. So if you already saw it, I was going to go on Instagram and be yo, who on here on my Instagram is into Formula One? Because I'm so into it right now, and I just want to talk to some people about it.
Dude,
Yeah.
legit.
Other than you two.
I posted about it once, and I feel like it was the most amount of people to reply back ever.
Really?
Yeah, legit.
Okay, I'm doing it.
We're
You
doing it,
sold
dude.
me.
We're
feel
starting a new
Gosh.
podcast, Prompt Us F1 Edition.
Okay, I'm not I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I pioneered this thing.
Bro,
I
got
pioneered
I'm the
this
captain
thing.
now.
Yeah.
I am the captain now. Yeah,
Look me in the
I
eyes.
watched the show just on a whim. I saw it and I was like, looks like it could be interesting. Flippin' loved it. And then I was like, Zach, you need to watch it. And then Zach watched it. And then we were both like, Chad, you need to watch it too.
Yeah.
So we could talk about it on Prompt Us.
Dude,
Anyway.
Gabe gave me
Back
his
to the
Netflix login for that.
So
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Chad was like, yeah, we don't have Netflix. And I was like, bro, take our login.
I mean, you make a good point with watching it. There's definitely nothing wrong with watching shows and having that restful moments. And we talk about that in our podcast about rest. It's super good to be intentional about it. But I just think, sorry, just to bring it all the way back around again.
Yeah.
But I think when you're in a season of going, I don't have time to slow down, which I feel like this prompt kind of implies, I don't have time to stop. But how do I work this out? There are moments. There really is moments that you can kind of cut out in your day, whether it's over breakfast or man, I watch so many dumb YouTube videos for some reason, but it's if if I just stopped doing that and read the Bible more, honestly, that habit would give me so much more over a 10-year period.
Well, dude, even, I mean, take something like Formula One, like us watching, cars racing. At face value, it doesn't inherently feel or seem like, oh yeah, this is like a beneficial.
Totally. It's
you know what I mean?
entertainment, right?
But I was talking to Jess just last week, and I had the realization the day before, and I mentioned it to her, and she was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. This, like, literally watching Formula One and talking about it with you guys and all that stuff, that is the first hobby that I have had that I can't monetize and won't monetize.
Dang,
Wow.
dude. Not until
You know
we
what I
drop
mean?
that podcast. But
Like,
Well, hold on, hold on.
everything, like,
If they want to invite us to a race, like Gabe, okay, hold on.
If anyone
let's rewind.
from Formula One is watching,
dude, that is cracker. But dude, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
'cause
right?
I've always thought I've never had a hobby, but now that I think about it, it's like, oh no, this is also, other than just watching dumb YouTube videos, F1 seems to be like an actual valuable hobby, because the conversations I have with my boys, it's like we're not
and
just
it
talking
allows
about
you
work
to connect
anymore.
more and
Yeah, yeah.
everything. And like, I don't know, like I had music, and then everything that was a hobby for me on like the creative side, I was able to turn into work in some way. You know what I mean? Like, even our conversations that we would have, we were like, bro, let's make a podcast about it. And now it's a job, you know? And then, the music, making board games, like I'm working on that in the background.
Fully.
All the making videos, like all the things that were hobbies turned into work. And now there's this thing that I know I can switch off, hang with my boys, talk about it. Like, and to me, that is like very beneficial.
Yeah.
And it makes me like value that and understand that I'm going to like grow in community
Totally.
with
That's a good way to put that.
with the homies.
Yeah, fully.
So, I was thinking about this as we're talking about Formula One. So
Just
whenever
bring it back around. You know?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to bring it back full circle as you get ready to close out here in a few. Back in the day, whenever I would lose something, my mom would always say to me, well, where's the last place you had it? And I'm all like, if I knew that, I would have it, right? You know what I mean? And so I always found that question so annoying. I love you, Mom. But I was just like, I don't know where it's at. And so, but typically you've lost something because you put it where it doesn't belong. And so I remember there was once where I found my car keys in the refrigerator. In high school, I must have come home and I must have just put my keys there because the keys are in my hand, and I must have just like left them in there and grabbed like, I don't know, like a drink or something. And I found them in there, but they were lost because they weren't on the key ring. They weren't where they belong. And when it comes to losing your purpose, I think a lot of the reason you can lose your purpose is because you've put it somewhere where it's not supposed to be. Are we going to preach on that for a second, or what?
Bro, full send it. Take it, Chad. Take it to the bank.
And dude, I loved what you were saying about 10 minutes ago, Gabe, because I had to take a note because then we talked about Formula One, whatever. I literally had to take a note because I was like, I know that this is going to go way longer. So let me come back to this in a little bit. I think when it comes to like God and our walk with him, especially what you're saying, we're never bored. If like we're out having dinner with somebody, our phone's on the table. Whenever they get up to go to the bathroom, our phone's now in our hand and we're scrolling social media because we're almost, I don't want to say we're afraid to be alone because I'm not trying to trigger our audience, but why do we do it? Why are we afraid of our thoughts, right? And so because we can constantly distract ourselves, we're always in a hurry for the next kind of fix emotionally. And I think that when it comes to purpose, we have to realize that this is a walk with God. This is not a run. And when it came time for me to rediscover my purpose, I had to realize that scripture says, I provide a lamp for your feet. It's not a flashlight where you can peer down, you see where you're going and you sprint. Because what happens when you sprint? You're more likely to trip and you're more likely to go really fast in the wrong direction. But whenever you're walking, that's special because how easy is it for you to change direction whenever you're walking? You know what I mean? It's easy. You just turn. And so God can direct you and turn you and steer you so much easier whenever you're walking with him. And you're not running because you're not like, oh, I need to do this to feel something. You're enjoying the process. You're enjoying the journey. You're walking with joy towards the purpose that God has laid out for you. And I think that's going to be a great thing, is to make sure we keep purpose where it belongs. Make sure to put it on the metaphorical key ring of our life and not the refrigerator next to a half-eaten sandwich.
Dude, preach. I don't even know what to add to that, because that was like,
Dude, I mean, I feel like that was it. That was the money, dude.
that was a cherry on top, baby.
Yep. If you like cherries,
Oh, yeah, I
if
just
you don't
wanna-
like cherries, there's whipped cream, or there's chocolate, there's nuts. If you have a nut allergy, you can
strawberry.
go caramel. There's also strawberry. Some people like fruit with their dessert. I don't. I'm more of like a chocolate guy, or specifically like a la mode, like a hot brownie with vanilla ice cream. That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Mm.
You're a hot brownie with vanilla ice cream. Hey, I just want to shout out Chad real quick to say, Chad, honestly, it feels like you're in the room, bro. So
Dude, it does.
good hustle, dude.
Dude, I'm in the
Well
room where it
done.
matters. Sorry, that's a Hamilton quote. My wife and I've been watching Hamilton a lot. Whatever. Just
Really?
yeah.
Well, if you guys don't know, Chad's in my house right now. I'm on the other side of the world, and Chad is in my house recording podcasts with
Dude,
us.
And
I'm
I
in-
should say, Gabe is in my house right now. So
And Zach is in his house right now. And Scout is outside of your house barking at you right now.
oh my god.
No, in the hallway. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Prompt Us. And remember, you can follow us at Prompt Us Podcast on Instagram. That's our handle, at Prompt Us Podcast. And that is where you can submit prompts that will be topics that we discuss in future episodes. Appreciate you guys tons, and we'll talk again in the next one.